Marcus Chen floated in the zero-gravity environment of Station Kepler 442, his magnetic boots clicking against the metal floor as he made his way through the bustling marketplace. The space station served as a neutral trading hub where dozens of alien species conducted business far from their home worlds. To most observers, Marcus looked unremarkable, average height for a human, brown hair, wearing the standard gray jumpsuit of a freight handler. The other species barely noticed him as he moved between the stalls. Towering Zephyrians with their crystalline exoskeletons discussed mineral rights in their musical language. Six-armed hexa merchants haggled over rare metals with practiced efficiency. The serpentine Vorthak slithered between displays of exotic foods, their forked tongues tasting the air for chemical signatures that indicated freshness. Marcus had been working on Kepler 44-3 standard months now, ever since the freight company transferred him from the inner colonies. Earth was still recovering from the devastation wars, and work was scarce in the Sol system. The job paid well enough, and Marcus found the multicultural environment fascinating, even if most aliens treated humans as little more than curious pets. "Hey, monkey boy!" The harsh voice belonged to Krex, a Brutari enforcer who worked security for one of the larger trading syndicates. The 7-foot-tall alien had mottled gray skin, 4 arms, and a disposition that matched his intimidating appearance. "Your shipment is late again. My boss is getting impatient." Marcus turned slowly, keeping his expression neutral. Krex had been harassing him for weeks, apparently finding entertainment in intimidating the lone human on the station. The manifest shows delivery at 1400 hours station time. It's currently 1347. I'm 13 minutes early. Krex stepped closer, using his considerable height advantage to loom over Marcus. "Don't get smart with me, soft skin. Your species might think they're clever, but you're just another prey animal that learned to use tools. One day, someone's going to remind you of your place in the food chain." Several other aliens had stopped to watch the confrontation. Marcus noticed a group of Hexa pointing at him and chittering in their rapid-fire language. A pair of young Zephyrians were making what he assumed were bets about how the situation would unfold. "I understand your concern," Marcus replied calmly, "but the shipment will be delivered on time, as specified in the contract. If there are any issues with our service, I suggest you file a formal complaint with station administration." Krex's 4 eyes narrowed. "You think hiding behind bureaucracy will save you? Humans are weak, fragile. Your homeworld got conquered because your species can't fight. You survived by running away and begging stronger species for protection." Marcus felt something cold settle in his chest, but he kept his voice level. Earth wasn't conquered. The devastation wars were a civil conflict between human factions. We ended it ourselves. By destroying half your planet. Krex laughed, a sound like grinding metal. "Real predators don't burn their own hunting grounds. You're just scavengers pretending to be dangerous." The watching crowd had grown larger. Marcus could hear more alien languages as the confrontation drew attention. He noticed Vera, a Zephyrian trader he'd worked with before, watching with what might have been concern. The crystalline being had always been polite to him, unlike many of the others. "The delivery will be completed as scheduled," Marcus said firmly. "Now, if you'll excuse me, I have work to finish." As he turned to leave, Krex grabbed his shoulder with one massive hand. The Brutari's grip was designed to hurt, with enough force to bruise human flesh through the jumpsuit's protective padding. "We're not done talking, monkey," Krex growled. "You need to learn some respect." Marcus looked down at the hand on his shoulder, then back up at Krex's face. For just a moment, something flickered in his eyes, something that made the Brutari unconsciously loosen his grip. "Remove your hand," Marcus said quietly. His voice hadn't gotten louder, but there was a subtle change in tone that made several nearby aliens step back. Krex hesitated, confused by the human's sudden change in demeanor. The soft-spoken freight worker had been replaced by something else, something that made the Brutari's predator instincts whisper warnings. But Krex was used to being the biggest predator in any room. He tightened his grip instead. "Or what? You'll file a complaint?" Marcus reached up with seemingly casual movement and placed his hand over Krex's. To the watching aliens, it looked like a futile gesture. A small human hand against a Brutari's massive paw. Then Krex screamed. The sound echoed through the marketplace as the 7-foot alien dropped to his knees. Marcus had found the exact pressure point where Krex's exoskeleton met softer tissue. applying precisely calculated force to a nerve cluster that sent waves of agony through the Brutari's entire arm.
"I asked you politely to remove your hand," Marcus said, his voice still calm as Krex writhed in pain.
In human culture, we consider unwanted physical contact to be assault. The appropriate response to assault depends on the situation and the level of threat. He released Krex's hand, and the Brutari stumbled backward, cradling his arm against his chest. The tough enforcer who had been terrorizing smaller species was reduced to whimpering and unable to use one of his primary limbs. The marketplace had gone silent. Every conversation had stopped as hundreds of alien eyes focused on the human who had just disabled a Brutari with what looked like a gentle touch. Marcus straightened his jumpsuit and checked his chronometer. 13:55 hours. I need to complete the delivery. Vera, your shipment of Terran electronics should arrive within the next few minutes. Please have your payment authorization ready. The Zephyrian trader stepped forward hesitantly, her crystalline features reflecting the station's artificial lighting. Marcus, what did you just do? Applied pressure to a nerve cluster, Marcus replied matter-of-factly. Brutari anatomy has several vulnerable points that aren't well known outside medical circles. The pain will fade in about 10 minutes, with no permanent damage. Krex was being helped to his feet by two of his associates, both of whom were giving Marcus a wide berth. The injured Brutari was muttering what sounded like threats, but he made no move to continue the confrontation. How did you know where to? Vera began, then stopped herself. Never mind. I don't think I want to know. Marcus smiled, the expression not reaching his eyes. Humans have always been curious about anatomy. We tend to study things that interest us. As news of the incident spread through the station's communication networks, Marcus returned to his work. He loaded cargo containers onto hover platforms, checked manifest numbers, and made deliveries with the same methodical efficiency he'd shown since arriving on Kepler 442. But something had changed. Aliens who had previously ignored him now watched from a distance. Conversation stopped when he passed. The casual dismissal that humans usually received was replaced by something else. A wary respect that came from witnessing something unexpected and unsettling. In the Zephyrian section of the station, Trader Captain Senna was reviewing security footage of the incident with her colleagues. The crystalline beings prided themselves on their analytical capabilities, and what they saw in the recordings troubled them. Play it again, Senna requested. Focus on the human's body language in the moments before contact. The footage slowed as Marcus reached for Krex's hand. To most observers, it had looked like a desperate gesture, but enhanced analysis revealed something different. Controlled, precise movement, with no wasted motion. The human had known exactly where to strike and how much pressure to apply. His heart rate remained steady throughout the confrontation, reported Senna's medical officer. No elevation in stress hormones, no fight-or-flight response. He wasn't afraid of the Brutari at all. More concerning, added their security specialist, watch his eyes during the initial verbal confrontation. He's conducting a threat assessment. Note how he catalogs the positions of other aliens, identifies potential weapons, calculates escape routes. This isn't a freight handler. This is someone with combat training. Senna's internal organs shifted, the Zephyrian equivalent of a shutter. Run a deep scan on all human personnel records in the station database. I want to know who Marcus Chen really is. Meanwhile, in the Brutari section, Krex was explaining the incident to his boss, War Chief Tax. The massive Brutari leader listened with growing incredulity as his enforcer described being disabled by a human. You're telling me, Tax rumbled, that a prey species freight worker defeated one of my best fighters with a finger pinch? It wasn't normal, Krex insisted, still favoring his injured arm. The pain was like nothing I've ever experienced. Humans aren't supposed to know how to do that. Tax studied the security footage on his personal display. Like the Zephyrians, he saw details that the initial observers had missed. The human's stance, his precise movement, the way he controlled the situation from beginning to end. Get me everything we have on human military history, Tax ordered. I want to know what we're really dealing with. The research that followed painted a disturbing picture. While most galactic civilizations had developed spaceflight by evolving past their aggressive tendencies, humans had reached the stars while still carrying the instincts and knowledge of apex predators. Earth's history was filled with conflicts of unprecedented scale and brutality. Humans had developed thousands of different fighting styles, weapon systems, and military strategies. They had turned warfare into an art form, then a science, then an industrial process that could process entire populations. The devastation wars hadn't been won by outside intervention or peaceful negotiation. They had ended when one side developed weapons so terrible that continued fighting would have rendered Earth uninhabitable. Humans had stopped fighting not because they couldn't continue, but because they had become too efficient at destroying each other. And now one of those humans was working as a freight handler on their station, pretending to be harmless while possessing knowledge that could neutralize trained fighters with casual ease. As Marcus completed his shift and returned to his modest quarters in the human residential section, he was unaware of the investigation spreading through the station's various factions. He showered, prepared a simple meal, and sat down to read messages from Earth. The latest news wasn't encouraging. Reconstruction was proceeding slowly, with many regions still uninhabitable due to radiological contamination. The economy was struggling, and political tensions remained high between the surviving nation-states. Marcus had left Earth to find work, but also to escape the memories. He'd seen enough fighting for one lifetime. The freight handling job was supposed to be peaceful, an opportunity to see the galaxy while staying far away from anything resembling warfare. But peace, he was learning, required strength to maintain it. And sometimes that strength had to be demonstrated. A soft chime announced an incoming communication. Marcus activated the display to see Vera's crystalline features. "Marcus, I hope I'm not disturbing you," the Zephyrian said. "I wanted to thank you for handling that situation today. Krex has been bothering several of the smaller traders, and security hasn't been able to do much about it." "It's not a problem," Marcus replied. "Everyone deserves to work without harassment." "Yes, but," Vera hesitated, "the way you handled him. Most humans I've met wouldn't have known how to do that. Are you military?" Marcus was quiet for a long moment. "Former military. I don't like to advertise it. May I ask why you left?" Another pause. "Because I was very good at my job, and that started to bother me." Vera's crystalline structure shifted slightly, the equivalent of a nod. "I understand. Thank you for your honesty." After ending the call, Marcus returned to his reading. But his peace was interrupted again by another communication, this one from Station Administrator Quellex, a Hexa who managed civilian operations. "Mr. Chen," the six-armed administrator began, "I've received several reports about an incident in the marketplace today. While you don't appear to have violated any station regulations, I'm concerned about the potential for escalation. The Brutari are not known for forgetting perceived slights." "I defended myself from assault," Marcus said simply. "If Krex wants to file charges, he's welcome to do so. That's not what concerns me," Quellex admitted. "What concerns me is that my security team has been researching human capabilities, and they've discovered some disturbing information about your species' military history." Marcus felt that familiar cold settling in his chest again. Such as the fact that humans have developed more ways to kill each other than the rest of the galactic community combined. Such as the fact that your civil war killed more people than most interstellar conflicts. Such as the fact that you're all trained killers pretending to be civilized. "We are civilized," Marcus said firmly. "But civilization doesn't mean helplessness. It means choosing when and how to use the tools we've developed. And how do I know you'll continue making good choices?" Marcus looked directly into the camera. "Because I came here to get away from war, not to start one. But I won't be anyone's victim either. Krex learned that today. If others want to test me, they'll learn it too." The administrator's six arms gestured in what Marcus had learned was a sign of nervous agitation. "I see. Well, I hope it doesn't come to that. Good evening, Mr. Chen." As the communication ended, Marcus realized that his quiet life on Kepler 442 had just become significantly more complicated. Word would spread through the station's alien community. Some would be intimidated, others would be curious, and a few would see his display of capability as a challenge. He'd wanted to leave his military past behind, But it seemed the past had a way of catching up with him. The other species on the station were about to learn something that humans had known for millennia. Sometimes the most dangerous predators were the ones that looked harmless until they revealed their true nature. The next few days on Station Kepler, 442 passed with an unusual tension that seemed to permeate every section. Marcus continued his work routine, but he noticed the changes. Aliens who had previously treated him with casual indifference now gave him a wide berth. Conversation stopped when he approached, and he caught species he'd never interacted with pointing at him from across the marketplace. The incident with Krex had triggered something that Marcus recognized from his military days: intelligence gathering. Each species was trying to understand what they were really dealing with, and the results were clearly making them uncomfortable. 3 days after the confrontation, Marcus was approached by someone unexpected. Commander Zalk of the Hexa Defense Corps, identifiable by the military insignia embedded in his exoskeleton, waited near Marcus's workstation as he finished loading a cargo transport. "Mr. Chen," the six-armed officer said, his translator rendering his chittering voice into precise standard, "I would like to speak with you privately." Marcus secured the cargo clamps and turned to face the commander. Hexa were generally peaceful, but their military was known throughout the galaxy for its tactical brilliance. If their defense corps was taking an interest in him, the situation had escalated beyond simple station gossip. "Of course, Commander. What can I do for you?" Zalk gestured with 4 of his arms toward a quieter section of the loading bay. "I have been reviewing the security footage from your encounter with the Brutari enforcer. I must admit your technique was impressive. It was basic anatomy and pressure point application. Nothing special." "Perhaps," Zalk agreed, though his tone suggested skepticism. "Tell me, what was your role in Earth's military?" Marcus had been expecting this question. "I served with the Terran Space Marines, specialized reconnaissance and counterinsurgency operations." The Hexa commander's compound eyes focused more intently. "The Space Marines were mentioned in several of the files my intelligence staff located. Elite units known for operating behind enemy lines. Unconventional warfare specialists." "We did our job," Marcus said simply. "Your job," Zalk repeated, "according to the records we've managed to access, included training to function independently in hostile territory with minimal equipment against numerically superior forces. Is this accurate?" Marcus felt the familiar weight of old memories. Images of burning cities, desperate firefights in the ruins of civilization, nights spent moving through enemy territory with only his training and instincts to keep him alive. "Yes, that's accurate." Zalk's 6 arms moved in a pattern that Marcus had learned indicated deep thought among the Hexa. "Mr. Chen, I'm going to be direct with you. My government is concerned about human integration into galactic society. The more we learn about your species' capabilities, the more questions we have. Such as why a species with your military prowess was granted unrestricted access to civilian stations. Such as whether humans pose a potential threat to established galactic peace. Such as what would happen if your Civil War mentality was directed outward instead of at each other." Marcus understood the implications immediately. First contact protocols typically involved extensive evaluation periods before species were allowed unrestricted movement through galactic space. Humans had been fast-tracked because Earth was devastated and the survivors needed work and resources. But if the galactic community was having second thoughts, "Commander, I left Earth to get away from war." Most humans feel the same way. "We're not looking for trouble, but you're prepared for it," Zalk observed. "That's what concerns my superiors. A species that treats warfare as a fundamental skill set, who trains their civilians in combat techniques, who develops military technology as an art form. This is unprecedented in galactic history." "Maybe that's why you've had galactic peace," Marcus suggested, "because no one else knew how to fight effectively enough to make war unprofitable." The Hexa commander stared at him for a long moment. "You're saying that humans could upset the balance of power?" "I'm saying that humans understand something most species seem to have forgotten. Peace is maintained by those capable of war who choose not to fight. Take away that choice and peace becomes submission to whoever is strongest." Zalk's arms moved again, more rapidly this time. This conversation has been enlightening. I will be filing a report with my superiors. I suggest you be very careful in your interactions with other species, Mr. Chen. You may have more observers than you realize. As the Hexa commander left, Marcus felt the weight of unwanted attention settling on his shoulders. He'd hoped to remain anonymous, just another human refugee trying to make a living in galactic space. But his moment of action against Krex had revealed too much about what humans were capable of. That evening, Marcus was contacted by someone he hadn't expected to hear from, Dr. Sarah Kim, a human xenobiologist working on the other side of the station. He'd seen her in the human residential areas, but they'd never spoken directly. "Marcus," she said as her image appeared on his communication screen, "I think we need to talk. Can you meet me in the observation lounge?" The observation lounge was one of the few areas on Kepler 4-2 where different species socialized freely. Large transparent barriers provided a view of the surrounding starfield, and the neutral atmosphere made it popular with diplomats and traders. Marcus found Dr. Kim sitting alone at a corner table nursing a drink that looked like coffee but probably wasn't. She was a small woman with graying hair and the intense eyes of someone who spent her life studying alien life forms. "You've caused quite a stir," she said without preamble, as Marcus sat down. "Half the station is convinced humans are a dormant warrior race, and the other half is wondering if they should request our expulsion from galactic space." "I just defended myself from a bully," Marcus replied. "Nothing more." "Nothing more?" Dr. Kim laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Marcus, I've been monitoring alien communication channels since the incident. Do you know what they're calling you? The sleeping predator. They think you're representative of all humans. And what do you think?" She studied him carefully. "I think you're exactly what they think you are. Military training leaves marks, even when someone tries to hide it. The question is, are there more like you among the human refugees?" Marcus was quiet for a moment. "Some. Most of us just want to rebuild our lives. But you're all capable of what you did to Krex?" "With the right training and motivation, yes. Humans adapt quickly to threats." Dr. Kim leaned back in her chair. "Then we have a problem. The galactic community has spent centuries developing beyond their aggressive phases. They see warfare as primitive, barbaric, something that civilized species evolved past. Now they're confronted with humans who treat combat as a professional skill. Maybe it's time they remembered that evolution doesn't always mean becoming helpless," Marcus suggested. "Or maybe it means they decide we're too dangerous to coexist with." Dr. Kim countered. "I've been working with alien species for 15 years, Marcus. I've never seen them this unsettled. They're starting to ask questions about human presence in galactic space." Before Marcus could respond, their conversation was interrupted by the arrival of an unexpected guest. Tax, the Brutari war chief, approached their table with two of his enforcers. The massive alien's presence drew the attention of every being in the lounge. "Mr. Chen," Tax rumbled, his voice carrying clearly across the sudden silence. "I would like to speak with you." Marcus remained seated, his hands visible on the table. "What about?" "About what you did to my enforcer. About what you are. About what your species represents." Doctor Kim started to stand, but Marcus gestured for her to remain seated. This confrontation had been inevitable since the incident with Krex. "I'm listening," Marcus said calmly. Tax moved closer, using his considerable bulk to intimidate. "The Brutari are warriors. We understand strength, respect power, admire skill in combat. What you demonstrated was impressive, but it raises questions, such as why a warrior of your evident capabilities is working as a freight handler, such as what other skills humans possess that they haven't revealed, such as whether your presence here is part of some larger strategy." Marcus could feel the attention of every alien in the lounge focused on their conversation. This wasn't just about him anymore. This was about the entire human presence in galactic space. "War Chief, I'm going to tell you something that might surprise you. Humans don't consider what I did to be particularly impressive. Every human child learns basic anatomy and pressure points as part of standard education. What I demonstrated is considered basic self-defense, not advanced combat training." The statement sent a ripple of reaction through the listening aliens. If what Marcus was claiming was true, then every human refugee on the station possessed capabilities that most species would consider military-grade skills. Tax's four eyes narrowed. You're saying all humans can do what you did? I'm saying all humans learn how to protect themselves. Some are better at it than others, but yes, the basics are universal. Dr. Kim was staring at Marcus with a mixture of admiration and horror. She understood the implications of what he was revealing better than most. And your military? Tax pressed. What are they capable of? Marcus met the war chief's gaze steadily. Things that would give you nightmares. The silence that followed was deafening. Finally, Tax spoke again, his voice carrying a note of respect that hadn't been there before. I see, and you chose not to pursue military advancement? I chose to pursue peace, Marcus corrected. There's a difference. Tax studied him for a long moment, then nodded slowly. Indeed there is. You have answered my questions honestly. I will remember this. As the Brutary war chief and his enforcers withdrew, the normal conversations in the lounge gradually resumed. But Marcus could see the looks being exchanged between species, the hurried communications being sent, the careful distances being maintained. You just told them that humanity is a species of natural-born killers who chose to become refugees instead of conquerors, Dr. Kim said quietly. Do you realize what that implies? It implies that we're not a threat to anyone who doesn't threaten us first, Marcus replied. And it implies that those who do threaten us should reconsider their position, or it implies that we're too dangerous to be allowed to live freely in galactic space.
Marcus was quiet for a moment, watching the starfield beyond the observation windows.
Sarah, humanity has been underestimated before. It never ends well for the ones doing the underestimating. Is that a threat? It's a statement of historical fact. Their conversation was interrupted again, this time by Vera, the Zephyrian trader who had witnessed the original confrontation with Krex. The crystalline being approached hesitantly, her translucent features reflecting the lounge's ambient lighting. Excuse me, she said, but I couldn't help overhearing your conversation. May I ask you something directly? Of course, Marcus replied. Are humans dangerous? The question hung in the air for a moment before Marcus answered. Humans are what they need to be. We can be teachers, artists, explorers, builders. We can also be the most efficient killers in known space. The choice of which we are depends on how we're treated. Vera's crystalline structure shifted, the equivalent of deep thought. That's actually reassuring. How so? Because it means you're not mindlessly aggressive. You're selectively dangerous. There's a difference. Doctor, Kim leaned forward. What do the other traders think? They're divided, Vera admitted. Some want humans restricted to their home system until we understand what we're dealing with. Others think we should try to learn from you. The Hexa military is advocating for closer observation. The Brutaraire are intrigued. And the Zephyrians? We're merchants. We appreciate pragmatism. A species that can be peaceful when treated with respect, but dangerous when threatened. That's actually good for business. It means humans can be trusted to honor contracts and capable of enforcing them. Marcus smiled slightly. That's a refreshingly practical perspective. We Zephyrians pride ourselves on practical thinking, Vera agreed. But Marcus, you should know that not everyone shares this view. There are species calling for human restriction or even expulsion from galactic space. They're afraid of what you represent. Change, Dr. Greasy, Kim said quietly. We represent change to a galactic order that's been stable for centuries. And change, Marcus added, is something that many people fear more than they fear actual danger. As the evening progressed, more aliens approached their table. Some were curious, others were concerned, and a few were openly hostile. But Marcus noticed something interesting. The hostility came from species that had traditionally relied on physical intimidation or economic pressure to get their way. The more intelligent and adaptable species seemed genuinely interested in understanding human capabilities and motivations. By the time Marcus returned to his quarters, he knew that his simple life as a freight handler was over. Word of his conversation with Tax was already spreading through the station's communication networks. Questions were being asked at levels far above station administration. and somewhere in the galactic government decisions were being made about humanity's future in interstellar space. As he prepared for sleep, Marcus received one final communication of the day. It came through encrypted channels using codes he recognized from his military service. The sender was someone he'd hoped never to hear from again, Colonel Martinez, his former commanding officer in the Space Marines. Marcus, the grizzled veteran, said from the screen, "I've been monitoring alien communications concerning human activities in galactic space. It seems you've attracted some attention. We need to talk." The encrypted communication with Colonel Martinez left Marcus staring at a blank screen long after the transmission ended. His former commanding officer had been clear. Human activities in galactic space were being monitored not just by aliens, but by Earth's surviving military intelligence networks. The quiet life Marcus had sought was an illusion that had just been shattered. 3 hours later, Marcus found himself in a maintenance shaft deep in Kepler 442's infrastructure, following directions that had been included in Martinez's message. The location was chosen for its electromagnetic interference, which would mask their conversation from station monitoring systems. Colonel Elena Martinez materialized as a hologram, her image slightly distorted by the security encryption. She looked older than Marcus remembered, with new lines around her eyes and gray streaks in her black hair. The devastation wars had aged everyone who survived them. "You look good, Chen," she said without preamble. "Civilian life suits you." "It did until 3 days ago," Marcus replied. "What do you want, Colonel?" "I want to understand why one of my best operators decided to demonstrate advanced combat techniques to an alien audience. Did you think no one would notice?" Marcus felt a familiar frustration rising. "I defended myself from assault. Nothing more." "Nothing more?" Martinez laughed harshly. "Marcus, half the galactic community is convinced humans are secretly planning an invasion. The other half wants to quarantine Earth before we contaminate their peaceful civilization. Your little demonstration has triggered the biggest diplomatic crisis since first contact." "That's not my problem anymore. I'm retired." "No one retires from what we do, Chen. You know that. The skills, the instincts, the way we see threats, it's permanent. And right now, those skills are exactly what humanity needs." Marcus was quiet for a moment, processing the implications. "You want me to be a spy? I want you to be yourself, but with awareness of the bigger picture. Earth is vulnerable right now. We're rebuilding. Our population is scattered, and we're dependent on alien goodwill for basic resources. If the galactic community decides we're too dangerous to coexist with, they'll try to quarantine Earth," Marcus finished. "Cut us off from galactic trade and technology. Strand us in our own system until we either evolve past our aggressive phase or die out." "Exactly. But there's another possibility they're considering. One that's even worse." Martinez paused, her expression growing grim. "Preemptive action. Some species are advocating for direct intervention to pacify humanity before we become a threat to galactic stability." The words hit Marcus like a physical blow. He'd seen what human military forces could do when fighting each other. But he'd also seen what happened when technologically superior forces decided to impose their will on others. How many humans know about this? Officially? None. The alien governments are being very careful to keep their discussions confidential, but we have assets in place, people and positions to monitor alien communications. What we're hearing is troubling. What kind of preemptive action are they considering? Martinez was quiet for a long moment. Orbital bombardment. Targeted elimination of military and industrial capacity. Forced relocation of human populations to rehabilitation centers. They're calling it the Civilization Protocol, a set of procedures for dealing with dangerously aggressive species. Marcus felt cold settling in his chest again, but this time it wasn't the controlled calm of a trained operative. This was fear for his entire species. Have they made a decision? Not yet. There's significant disagreement among the major powers. The Zephyrians are advocating for observation and limited integration. The Hexa want controlled human settlements under alien supervision. The Brutari are actually arguing in our favor. They respect strength and think we could be valuable allies. And the others, the Vorthak Collective, is pushing for immediate quarantine. The Crystalline Alliance wants a complete ban on human expansion beyond the Sol system. and there are smaller species calling for more extreme measures. Marcus understood the political dynamics immediately. Fear was driving policy, and fear made rational decision-making nearly impossible. What do you need from me? Intelligence. The aliens on this station represent every major galactic power. They're watching you, studying human behavior, reporting back to their governments. We need to know what they're learning, how they're interpreting it, and what conclusions they're reaching. You want me to spy on the people I work with every day. I want you to help ensure humanity's survival, Martinez corrected. Because if the galactic community decides we're too dangerous to live freely, all the peaceful intentions in the universe won't save us. The conversation was interrupted by a soft chiming sound from Marcus's personal communicator. Someone was trying to reach him on official channels. I have to go, Marcus said. Station administration wants to see me. Be careful, Chen, and remember, everything you do now affects more than just yourself. You're representing humanity whether you want to or not. The hologram faded, leaving Marcus alone in the maintenance shaft with the weight of his species' future pressing down on him. 20 minutes later, Marcus stood in Administrator Quellix's office, facing not just the six-armed Hexa, but representatives from several other species. He recognized Commander Zalk from their earlier conversation, War Chief Tax, and Vera. There were also beings he'd never seen before. A Vorthak diplomat with scales that shifted color with emotion. A Crystalline Alliance representative whose entire body seemed to be made of living gemstone. And others whose species he couldn't immediately identify. Mr. Chen, Administrator Quellex began, this is an informal inquiry into recent events. You are not under arrest, but I must inform you that the outcome of this conversation may affect human status in galactic space. Marcus took a seat in the center of the room, noting how the chairs had been arranged. He was surrounded, but not in a threatening way, more like a specimen being studied by researchers. I understand, Marcus said simply. The Vorthak diplomat spoke first, their scales shifting to an aggressive red pattern. Human Chen, we have analyzed the recordings of your confrontation with the Brutari enforcer. The techniques you employed suggest extensive combat training. Please explain the nature of this training. Basic self-defense instruction that all human children receive, Marcus replied. Knowledge of anatomy, pressure points, and defensive techniques is considered part of standard education. The Crystalline Alliance representative's body pulsed with light as they spoke through a harmonic translator. You claim this is basic knowledge, yet our analysis suggests the level of precision required would take years to master. Are you stating that all humans receive years of combat training? I'm stating that humans teach their children how to protect themselves. Some pursue advanced training, others don't. But yes, the basics are universal. Commander Zalk leaned forward. During our previous conversation, you mentioned your military service. Can you elaborate on the nature of that service? Marcus had been expecting this question and had decided on honesty as the best approach. I served with the Terran Space Marines, specializing in reconnaissance and unconventional warfare. My training included extended operations in hostile territory, survival in extreme conditions, and combat against numerically superior forces. And how many humans received similar training? The Vorthak pressed. During the Devastation Wars, approximately 30% of the adult population served in military roles. Another 40% received civilian defense training. The wars lasted 15 years. The numbers sent a visible ripple through the assembled aliens. They were doing the mathematics in their heads. A species where the majority of adults had military or paramilitary training, engaged in total warfare for more than a decade. War Chief Tax spoke up. Human Chen, your species fought a civil war that lasted 15 years and killed billions. Yet when it ended, you simply stopped fighting. How? Marcus considered his answer carefully. Because we learned something that most species never have to learn. How to be too good at killing each other. The Devastation Wars ended when both sides developed weapons that would have made Earth uninhabitable. We stopped fighting because continuing would have meant extinction. You chose survival over victory, Vera observed. We chose to survive so that victory would still be meaningful, Marcus corrected. There's no point in winning if there's nothing left to rule over. The Crystalline Alliance representative pulsed with different colors. This suggests a level of rational thinking that contradicts your aggressive capabilities. Intelligence and aggression aren't mutually exclusive, Marcus pointed out. Humans developed both because we needed both to survive. We're dangerous when threatened, but we're also smart enough to know when fighting serves our interests and when it doesn't. Administrator Quellex made a gesture with two of his arms. Mr. Chen, there are some in the galactic community who believe humanity represents a potential threat to established peace. How would you respond to this concern? Marcus looked around the room, meeting the eyes, or equivalent sensory organs, of each representative in turn. I would say that peace maintained through ignorance of violence is fragile peace. Humanity understands both war and peace because we've experienced both at their extremes. We choose peace not because we can't fight, but because we know what war actually costs. And if humanity were threatened, the Vorthak diplomat asked, if someone attempted to impose their will on your species, then they would discover why 15 years of civil war wasn't enough to destroy us, Marcus said quietly. Humans don't surrender easily. The room fell silent for a moment. Then Vera spoke up. Marcus, from our perspective, you're describing a species that's naturally militaristic but capable of choosing peace. Is this accurate? Vera, humans are naturally adaptive. We become what we need to become to survive. If we need to be warriors, we become very good warriors. If we need to be explorers, we become explorers. If we need to be traders, we become traders. The key is that we choose what we become based on how we're treated. Commander Zalk's compound eyes focused intently. And how do you wish to be treated? As equals, as partners, as beings capable of both creation and destruction who have chosen to focus on creation. Judge us by our actions, not our capabilities. And remember that those capabilities exist to protect what we've chosen to create. War Chief Tax rumbled with what Marcus had learned was Brutari laughter. Well said, human. You speak like a warrior who understands the purpose of strength. The informal inquiry continued for another hour, with representatives asking questions about human culture, military organization, technological capabilities, and future intentions. Marcus answered honestly, understanding that deception would only make humanity look more threatening. As the session concluded, Administrator Quellex addressed the room. This inquiry was requested by several galactic governments to better understand human capabilities and intentions. The information gathered here will be forwarded to the appropriate authorities. And what happens then? Marcus asked. Then decisions will be made about humanity's role in galactic civilization, Quellex replied. I hope, for both our species' sake, that those decisions are wise ones. As the representatives filed out, Vera lingered behind. Marcus, can I give you some advice? Of course. Some of the species here today came expecting to find evidence that humans are planning aggressive expansion. Others came hoping to find reasons to restrict human activity in galactic space. You gave them neither. What did I give them? Something more dangerous. The truth. You've made it clear that humans are exactly what we thought you were, a species capable of incredible violence, who have chosen peace instead. That's either very reassuring or very terrifying, depending on your perspective. Which perspective do you think will prevail? Vera's crystalline features shifted in what Marcus had learned was the equivalent of a smile. That depends on how smart my fellow aliens really are. As Marcus returned to his quarters that evening, he found a message waiting from Dr. Sarah Kim. The xenobiologist had been monitoring alien communications throughout the day, and what she'd discovered was troubling. Marcus, her recorded message began. The informal inquiry you attended today was transmitted in real time to government centers across galactic space. The responses are already coming in, and they're not encouraging. The Vorthak Collective has formally requested that humans be restricted to supervised colonies. The Crystalline Alliance is calling for a complete ban on human expansion. Even some of our potential allies are expressing concerns about long-term human intentions. Marcus felt the weight of his conversation with Colonel Martinez settling on his shoulders again. Humanity's future was being decided by beings who had never experienced real war, who couldn't understand that strength and aggression were different things, who feared what they didn't comprehend. But there was more to consider. The aliens making these decisions had also never faced a truly determined human opposition. They had no idea what humanity was capable of when fighting for survival rather than fighting each other. As Marcus prepared for sleep, he realized that his role as an unwilling representative of humanity was far from over. The galactic community was about to make a decision about his species' future. He could only hope it would be the right one for everyone involved, because if it wasn't, they would all discover just how dangerous a cornered predator could become. The crisis came 3 days later, faster than anyone had anticipated. Marcus was in the middle of his shift when the station-wide emergency alarm sounded. All work stopped immediately as beings from dozens of species gathered around public information displays to hear Administrator Quellex's announcement. "Attention all station personnel," the Hexa administrator's voice echoed through the corridors. "We have received notification from the Galactic Council that a formal vote has been called regarding Human Integration Protocol 847. All human personnel are to report to Security Section 7 for temporary protective custody while the vote is conducted." Marcus felt his blood turn to ice. Protective custody was a polite term for imprisonment. The galactic community wasn't just considering restricting humanity. They were actively debating it, and they wanted human witnesses contained while they made their decision. Around him, aliens were staring with a mixture of curiosity, fear, and what might have been sympathy. Marcus noticed that several species were conspicuously absent from the marketplace, likely attending the emergency session that was deciding humanity's fate. Sarah Kim appeared at Marcus's side, her face pale with understanding. "They're actually doing it," she whispered. "They're going to vote on whether to quarantine our entire species." "How many humans are on the station?" Marcus asked quietly. 47 in total. Scientists, traders, freight workers, technical specialists. All of us refugees from the devastation wars. All of us trying to rebuild our lives. Marcus looked around at the assembling crowd of aliens, many of whom were now watching the humans with open fascination. They were seeing what might be the last free humans in galactic space. "We need to get to the others," Marcus said. "If they're planning to use us as examples or specimens, we should at least be together." But as they moved towards Security Section 7, Marcus's personal communicator chimed with an encrypted message. Colonel Martinez's voice came through clearly despite the security protocols. "Chen, abort protective custody immediately. Intel indicates the vote is a formality. Decisions already been made. Quarantine protocols are being activated. Get to Emergency Beacon 77 Alpha and await extraction." Marcus stopped walking, his mind racing through implications. If Earth's intelligence networks were activating extraction protocols, it meant the situation was worse than anyone publicly knew. And if they had emergency beacons hidden on civilian stations like Kepler, 442, Sarah, he said quietly. "How much do you trust me? After the last few days?" "Completely." "Why?" "Because I need you to make a choice. Go into protective custody with the other humans, or come with me and find out what's really happening here." Dr. Kim studied his face for a moment. "Is this a military thing?" "This is a survival thing." Without hesitation, she fell into step beside him as they changed direction, moving away from Security Section 7 toward the maintenance levels of the station. Emergency Beacon 77 Alpha was hidden in a power junction deep in Kepler's 442's infrastructure. Marcus accessed it with security codes he'd hoped never to use, downloading a data package that made him curse under his breath. "What is it?" "Dr. I." Kim asked. "The vote isn't just about quarantine," Marcus said grimly. "Intelligence indicates 3 possible outcomes. Option 1. Supervised human colonies under alien administration. Option 2. Complete quarantine of the Sol system with a blockade to prevent human expansion. Option 3. He paused, reading through classified files that painted a terrifying picture. Option 3. Preemptive pacification. Orbital bombardment of Earth's remaining military and industrial centers. Forced relocation of survivors to rehabilitation facilities. Complete cultural restructuring under alien supervision." Dr. Kim went pale. "They're talking about genocide. They're talking about preventing a future war by ensuring humans never again have the capability to wage one." The beacon's final transmission was a set of coordinates and a timeline. Marcus memorized both, then destroyed the device. "We have 6 hours," he said. "A stealth ship is coming to extract key personnel before the galactic decision is implemented. What about the other humans on the station?" Marcus was quiet for a moment, weighing operational security against human decency. "They'll be evacuated too, but not officially. This has to look like we were all captured or killed when the station's security forces came for us." They made their way back toward the civilian areas, but Marcus's military instincts were screaming warnings. The corridors were too quiet, and there were too many aliens moving with obvious purpose. Something was happening beyond the announced protective custody. The answer came when they reached the main marketplace. War Chief Tox was there with a full squad of Brutari warriors, but they weren't acting as station security. They were positioned defensively, weapons ready, facing off against a group of crystalline beings that Marcus didn't recognize. "What's happening?" Dr. Kim whispered. "Politics just became warfare," Marcus replied. Vera appeared at his side, her crystalline features reflecting the emergency lighting. "Marcus, thank the stars you're here. The vote hasn't even finished, but some species are trying to implement their preferred solution immediately." Explain. "The Crystalline Alliance brought a military force to Kepler, 442. They're claiming authority under Emergency Protocol 15 to secure all humans for immediate transfer to containment facilities. War Chief Tax is refusing to allow it." Marcus understood immediately. The galactic community was fracturing over the human question, with different species trying to enforce their preferred outcome regardless of what the official vote might decide. Where are the other humans? Scattered throughout the station. Security Section 7 was a diversion. Administrator Quellex is trying to keep everyone safe while the political situation resolves itself. "It's not going to resolve itself peacefully," Marcus observed, watching the standoff between Brutari and crystalline forces. "This is about to become a shooting war with humans as the excuse." That's when the shooting actually started. The Crystalline Alliance forces moved first, apparently deciding that their technological superiority gave them an overwhelming advantage. Energy weapons discharged in brilliant flashes, ionizing the station's atmosphere and filling the marketplace with the smell of ozone and burnt metal. The Brutari responded with their own weapons, heavier, more primitive-looking devices that fired dense metallic projectiles at incredible velocity. The two technologies were incompatible, but equally lethal. Marcus grabbed Dr. Kim and Vera, pulling them behind a cargo container as energy beams and hypervelocity rounds turned the marketplace into a war zone. Around them, civilian aliens were screaming and running for cover. "This isn't about humans anymore," Dr. Kim said, her voice tight with fear. "This is about who gets to control galactic policy." "No," Marcus corrected, his training allowing him to analyze the tactical situation even amid the chaos. "This is exactly about humans. We're the catalyst. Our existence has forced them to confront questions about violence, aggression, and survival that they thought they'd evolved past." A crystalline warrior rounded their cover, weapon raised to fire. Marcus moved without thinking, his body responding with 15 years of combat experience. He grabbed the alien's weapon arm, applied pressure to a joint he'd observed during his anatomy studies, and relieved the creature of its energy rifle in one smooth motion. "Vera, can you get us to the human residential section?"
"Yes, but..."
"Do it." Now they moved through the station's corridors, avoiding the firefights that were erupting between different alien factions. Marcus carried the captured energy rifle, though he hoped not to use it. Dr. Fias. Kim stayed close behind him, while Vera guided them through maintenance passages and service corridors. "Marcus," Vera said as they paused at an intersection, "what are humans going to do if the galactic community tries to quarantine or pacify your species?" Marcus considered the question while checking the rifle's charge level. "Honestly, we're going to remind the galaxy why 15 years of civil war wasn't enough to break us." "You're talking about resistance. I'm talking about survival." "Humans don't surrender, Vera. We adapt, we fight, and we find ways to win even when the odds are impossible." "Against superior technology? Superior numbers?" "We faced both before. During the Devastation Wars, entire armies fought with improvised weapons against technologically superior opponents. Humans excel at asymmetric warfare, Vera. We turn enemy advantages into disadvantages. They reached the human residential section to find it in chaos. The 47 humans on Kepler 442 had been scattered by the fighting, with some hiding in their quarters and others trapped in various parts of the station. Marcus quickly organized them, using his military authority to create order from confusion. "Listen carefully," he addressed the group. "The galactic community is voting on our future, but the vote has been overshadowed by armed conflict between different alien factions. We have extraction coming, but we need to survive the next few hours." Dr. Amanda Foster, a human engineer, spoke up. "What kind of extraction?" "The kind that Earth's government has been planning since we started integrating into galactic society," Marcus replied. "The kind that assumes this day would eventually come." "You mean we've been expecting this?" "We've been preparing for it. Human intelligence networks have been monitoring alien communications since first contact. We knew some species would eventually see us as a threat." The group included scientists, traders, technical workers, civilians who had come to the stars seeking peaceful futures. But Marcus could see recognition in their eyes. They were all survivors of the devastation wars. They all understood what preparation for extinction looked like. "What do you need from us?" asked Dr. Kim. "Discipline. Follow orders without question. Trust that extraction will come. And if it doesn't," Marcus paused, meeting each person's eyes in turn. "Remember that we're human. That means we don't go quietly." The station shuddered around them as heavier weapons were brought into play. Through the residential section's windows, Marcus could see alien ships positioning themselves around Kepler 442. Whatever decision the Galactic Council reached, it was going to be enforced immediately. Marcus's communicator chimed with another encrypted message from Colonel Martinez. "Chen, extraction in 90 minutes. Be ready for hot pickup. The situation has escalated beyond diplomatic solutions." "Understood," Marcus replied. "What's the current political status?" "Vote's been postponed indefinitely due to armed conflict between council members. 3 different species are claiming authority to implement immediate solutions to the human question. Earth's position is that any action against human civilians constitutes an act of war." Marcus felt cold certainty settling over him. "We're looking at the start of the first galactic war in 1,000 years. Looks that way. And humans are going to be blamed for causing it, regardless of the actual factors involved." As Marcus prepared the human refugees for evacuation, he thought about the sequence of events that had brought them to this point. A simple act of self-defense had revealed human capabilities to a galactic community unprepared to deal with a species that understood violence. Fear had driven policy. Policy had created factions, and factions had resort to the very violence that everyone claimed to have evolved beyond. The irony wasn't lost on him. In trying to prevent humans from disrupting galactic peace, the aliens had started a war among themselves. 60 minutes later, stealth ships decloaked around Kepler W442, their angular black hulls revealing no identification markers. The extraction was conducted with military precision. Human personnel were retrieved from multiple locations simultaneously, with fighting cover provided by automated defense systems. As Marcus boarded the last transport with Dr. Kim and the other refugees, he looked back at the station that had briefly been his home. Alien ships were still firing on each other, their conflict having far exceeded the original human question. "What happens now?" Dr. Kim asked as their ship accelerated away from Kepler 442. "Now we go home," Marcus replied, "and we prepare for whatever comes next." "Which is?" Marcus watched the stars wheel around them as the ship changed course toward Sol system. "War, probably. The galaxy has remembered what violence looks like, and they're going to blame humans for reminding them." "And if they come for Earth?" Marcus smiled grimly. "Then they'll discover why humans survived 15 years of trying to destroy each other. They'll learn what it means to face a species that treats warfare as a professional skill rather than a primitive embarrassment." Through the transport's windows, Marcus could see other ships joining their formation. Earth's defensive fleets were mobilizing, preparing for a conflict that no one had wanted but everyone had made inevitable. The aliens had misjudged humans from the beginning, seeing them as dangerous predators when they were actually something far more complex, a species capable of both creation and destruction, who had learned to choose their battles carefully. Soon, the galactic community would understand the difference between a predator and an apex predator, and they would learn why underestimating humanity was a mistake that civilizations rarely survived making twice. As the fleet accelerated toward Earth, Marcus Chen closed his eyes and prepared for the war that was coming. After all, he was human, and humans were very, very good at war.